In a move that was widely expected, Corey Graham is back with the Eagles. And like I said, they bring him back in August, just like they did last year. So into 2017, you signed him on August 3rd. This year, you signed him on August 5th. 32 years old now. So you bring him back to the fold. And this is important because the Eagles, if you remember, they really like to implement that 3 safety look last year. And it really took off because the Eagles began to really struggle covering tight ends and running backs coming out of the backfield and just tight ends in general. So Michael Kendricks, obviously a guy that wasn't great in coverage. Once you had Jordan Hicks go down, there was a problem there. And against Seattle, that's when it really manifested itself. They had 13 receptions. J.D. McKissick was just burning Michael Kendricks on each and every play, essentially. And that's when they had to make a switch. It was the Giants game. Evan Ingram, if you remember, he had a great start to the game, but it wasn't until around halftime, around the second quarter, when they started putting Corey Graham on him. And once Corey Graham started playing Evan Ingram was getting shut down. And then Corey Graham, the snaps began to increase until the maximum came in the Super Bowl, 84% of the snaps. So if you remember the Super Bowl, I've said this before plenty of times, everybody is so scared about the depth at linebacker when essentially the Eagles really don't use their linebackers. That Super Bowl game, Nigel Bradham, 100% of the snaps, okay? That's one linebacker. Your second linebacker, Michael Kendricks, didn't even see 50% of the snaps. So you run a 4-3, that's 3 starting linebackers, but essentially the Eagles have 2 because they play nickel most of the time. So when your nickel is your base, you only need 2 linebackers. But in the Super Bowl, the Eagles, all they needed was 1.5 because Kendricks only played 40% and Donnell Ellerbe only saw 2 snaps. So it was Malcolm Jenkins that was really seeing a lot of the snaps at linebacker. He was the one that was really making the defense tick, and everything was kind of revolving around him in the playoffs. So 84% for Corey Graham. He was playing some single high. He was playing some slot. He was playing a little bit of everything, showing off his versatility. He's always been a really good tackler as well. So once they went to that look, that's when the running backs and the tight ends, not that they were getting shut down, but things were getting alleviated because it wasn't all of a sudden a major weakness. A major weakness all of a sudden became just average, I guess. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Corey Graham and, why he's back. Obviously, a move you pretty much had to make, I thought, especially your third safety. It would have been either Jeremy Reeves or Trey Sullivan, both undrafted guys. Although they're getting a lot of hype, it's still hard for me to see somebody like that, getting a lot of snaps, whether that's an undrafted rookie in Jeremy Reeves or an undrafted guy from last year in Trey Sullivan heading into his second season. So that's a lot of pressure if they would have had to play a lot of snaps. Now, as for the depth at linebacker too, I just wanted to bring this up too. If Jordan Hicks can stay healthy, I know that's a big if, but if he does stay healthy, you have him and Bradham, and all of a sudden you're kind of set, and then you can just kind of sprinkle in Corey Nelson, Kamagruz Yehill, and Nate Jerry. It's if Jordan Hicks gets hurt, all of a sudden, okay, then maybe you might have some issues. But as you saw last year, the Eagles were able to cover all that up. And, the game is getting faster. The game is getting a little smaller. And because the offenses are getting faster and smaller, so are the defenses. So these guys that, we're seeing it too. Even some safeties are becoming linebackers. We've seen that trend as well, obviously, with a lot of guys like Deion Buchanan, for example. That's just one guy, but there's a lot of these types now. And Nate Jerry, played safety in college. They want to play him some linebacker in the NFL, and it's basically they're not really playing linebacker. They're just, well, yeah, they're playing linebacker, but it's like a hybrid linebacker / safety. They're covering. And obviously Eagles defense rush for 4, drop back 7. So everybody has to cover on the back end. So there we go. Corey Graham, he's back with the Birds. Should not be a surprise to anybody. And I thought he was kind of an underrated piece for the team last year. So Corey Graham, he's back. Take care.